So hi, One the Good Noise podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with.
Jake.
Devin.
Rob.
And Ross, and we are the burden.
And we have some questions to say about their upcoming album, Terminal. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Pretty wild. I didn't think we'd ever make 3 full records. And we're here. We're old and we're still doing it. So
Hell yeah, the album rocks.
Mhm.
Abby's
you.
been really hyping me up to you guys, and she keeps going, "You got to have them on the show. Got to have them on the show." I'm like, "Well, you have to send me an email about them." I'm glad she did because the album is great. Of
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
course.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
I'll let Ross take that one. He's like our visual director.
Yeah, both are connected to each other. The album title is kind of a bit of a dual meaning thing because a lot of the themes on the record deal with loss, grief, healing, and sort of learning to sort of rebuild yourself and move forward in the wake of loss. And so we named the album Terminal as sort of a play on words of that because it can mean kind of two things. That, terminal can mean something final, it can mean something that's run the end of its course, but it can also be a waypoint or sort of a station of transition along a journey. So playing off of that, the album cover is sort of a physical representation of that. The actual object that's on the album cover, that sort of window box, we kind of dubbed it and called it the terminal to sort of signify that it's this place that encapsulates both of those things. It can be interpreted in however many ways you want to, whether it's sort of this final resting place or that sort of way station point where you're sort of waiting and being in transition. And so having the figure inside the objects is representative of that.
All right, very cool.
That's really cool.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
It was unlike we've
Different.
ever done before.
Very different.
All over the
so
place.
we started writing the first song like all of our previous work. We all sat down in a room together and just worked on ideas, and we did a little bit of like digital writing. But when it came to write for this record, we just released our album Sinking Feeling, and we were just always kind of gung ho about like, let's write. So I remember we had a band practice and right before the pandemic started, and we started working on our first song, and literally like the next week the world shut down. So we had to
Man.
take those ideas, and it was largely, I guess, Devin will come up with just some rough drum ideas. And I drive him crazy and kind of patchwork quilt those all together and write riffs over top of those. And then we send it back and forth with the band to be like, is this part too long? What do you think about this part? And we all kind of have some creative input that way. And once the skeleton of the song's all put together and we're happy with kind of the composition, then I throw vocals on top of it. So it's weird because there's some songs on this record that we've never played as a band ever like together, where it was very minimal on that on our previous releases. Like all of our songs prior to this record, we've at least like sat in a room and played front to back together. Where this one, like there's some songs that really took life kind of fully digitally, where we kind of have to like, if it becomes popular and we're like, okay, let's play this one live, we got to really figure out how to make it work live and make all of us like keep that full sound.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really write with intentions of playing live on this record. It was more like, how can we get the best song out of this? So yeah, so exciting challenge with the new type of writing style, I guess, that we had to work with this record.
That's crazy that you guys kind of started it right as the pandemic was hitting, and it sounds like for the most part you guys adapted pretty well to like that new writing style of like doing it all apart. So that's good.
Yeah, it was a bit of a transition period because again, kind of like Jake said, like we were before that, we were the band that we had a jam space and we at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week when we were more active before that. We were always together, whether it was writing or just practicing stuff to play live. And so it was definitely an adjustment because then all of a sudden there's no more shows, we can't see each other. We're all locked in our houses.
Yeah.
So it was just this sort of like, okay, well, we had one or two ideas that we had started kind of working on, and now how do we keep doing this, you know? And then as things started to kind of mid-pandemic slowly open back up again, we were able to, like, you know, we would get together and hang out, and because we didn't have a jam space anymore, it was just like, okay, well, let's all get together at my place or Rob's place, where we had like sort of the digital setup with the interface and stuff, and we could kind of like plug in, and it was just sort of this little back and forth thing of like, you know, Devin would work on programming some more drums and change it up, and then one of the guys would jump on the guitar and we would, you know, riff around and get it. So it was kind of this, we never actually got to like, we would be in the room together eventually working on the song, but we didn't actually get to sit down and play it together, because it was like Devin would program the drums and then swap over to one of the guitars and swap back. And then when everything was done, like Jake said, he would take vocals and lay it over. And then that's how we built out all of the demos for this record.
And
did we do the 4 songs like live recording for fun before or after the pandemic? Remember, there's 4 songs that were done much earlier than all the other ones. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
that's
kind of
right.
we had a first batch of songs like before we started talking to the folks at Open Your Ears Records and stuff. We kind of shifted gears. We were going to self-release an EP initially, and we had kind of all the groundwork there for it. And boom, like I guess it was 5 songs really, because we have an interlude on the record that was supposed to be on the original EP as well. And I think with we didn't do like a live recording. Ross started doing his bass recording for those, and we never really got too far into that. But yeah, like I think one of the weird things about the writing process with all of this, and something we really worried about, is like making the album sound cohesive, which I think we managed to do. And I think it really eased a lot of like future anxieties we had about the band, with us all getting kind of, I guess, older, shifting focuses and priorities in life. Like we're like, how do we keep doing this when we don't have a jam space? And then we were kind of forced into that situation anyways. Like, so yeah, it's a weird record for that.
The album definitely feels cohesive, obviously, in the sense, you know, as the songs as a whole. But I listened to it. We got a Dropbox, so I didn't get a chance to listen to the record like flow through. But it's and I was driving, so I couldn't do it fast enough to even really recognize it. But it seemed to me like the songs flow into each other, which obviously helps with the cohesive nature of the album.
Yeah, we're always super intentional about like track listing and like order and transitions. Like it does transition like right into the next song, and like that's since our first record, because we grew up as like massive music fans, and we're like a bunch of music nerds really at the end of the day. So like it doesn't matter about playing in front of X amount of people, blah blah blah. Like we just want to write records that we would love to listen to, and like as the art of the album is dying, like it's still very important to all of us to like have like, I mean, each song stands alone, and I think you can listen to each song or you can throw it on shuffle, but like I want to have like a little bit of like, I guess, a reward for the people who want to sit down and listen to the record front to back, to give it like a little extra layer of like, I guess, cohesiveness, and make it feel like a journey rather than just a collection of songs.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we were even more intentional this time around with that too, because of the nature of the themes of the record. I know, and this was we can talk about that later, but we were more intentional about working with our producer to make sure that we were really happy with the soundscape of how those transitions went, you know, how they flowed, how they felt, and just sort of the whole audio landscape of the emotional space that they evoked too, because it's like it can be fun to have it as just like, cool, this is fun ear candy, this sounds neat to transition to the next song, but we wanted it to be all make sense in even more so than we had prior, because of how important that overall theme was for this record.
Makes sense.
And then I just want to go back to what you said earlier, Jake. You said that this album was made basically just to sound good, make the songs sound awesome, versus kind of picturing them played live. When kind of just going through that process of making the songs, did it kind of give you like a little bit of freedom with it, where it's just kind of like, oh, we could do this really cool part that we might not be able to do live, but it's going to sound awesome on the record?
Totally. Like usually I write vocal parts, because vocals it's weird. So I play guitar in the band from a studio standpoint, but like when it comes to live, I don't. I do frontman stuff. Like I'm just the vocalist. So usually I write the parts in mind with like as a guitarist being like, could I sing and play guitar if we were to do this live? Thinking about Rob, because Rob plays guitars and does vocals live for us. So when working on vocals for this record, I think I was less intentional about being like, there's an overlapping scream and the guitar is really difficult to like do at the same time. So sorry, Rob, in advance, because we are planning on playing live. We haven't played since the pandemic, but I think that it was super freeing in the fact of like us being like, oh, this part would be really cool, but I don't know how we'd work that out live. Like, but then like in that perspective, I think when you go and see a band and the songs are kind of swapped to have like a different experience live, I think that that's also a fun thing about live, because to witness a band play a song live, like you almost crave that imperfection, because if you wanted to hear like that album version of the song, you just listen to the record. Like I hate when it sounds like a band is just like backtrack, you know? Exactly, yeah. Which that's fun and cool, and there's the space for that, but like I also love when things don't feel perfect live, and like they still feel tight though, you know? So like I'm excited to see how they evolve when we play them live for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Makes sense. So what song off this album took the longest to write, and which one is each of your own personal favorites?
Good question.
Thank you.
As I look up the track listing here.
Yeah,
we have all the
demo names
still in our head, right?
Yeah.
Rob perked up. I thought he was like excited to answer the question. Turns out he just had to go to the Google Drive folder.
We're panicking
now. Yes, I know the song names, I swear.
Devin, what do you think took the longest?
Took the longest I guess personally from a drum standpoint, it has, I think it would be Golden Graves, actually, the second to last song on the record.
Yeah, that changed a lot.
Drum wise, it went through so many different versions and styles before we eventually settled on what it is. And that was one of the first four that we had written. I feel like once we got past those first four, it was almost easier.
We kind of had a pressure after the first four because we wanted to write the record, right? With that being said, we didn't try to rush through the rest of them, but like it kind of just clicked, and we're a band that works really well under pressure. Like if nobody gives us a deadline, we're just gonna like, oh, we'll get around to it, sort of thing. But then it's like we self-imposed a deadline with the rest.
It was also around the beginning when we started writing more digitally, so I think we were still kind of figuring out the best way to do that, or what works best for us as a band, kind of thing. And then we kind of just got into a groove with it, and it just happened so easy.
Yeah, Golden Graves even changed like in the studio. Like, we rewrote a whole vocal part on that too. So like, yeah, that's a good. I agree with Devin. That probably took the longest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I just remember, and I think because it of all the songs on the record, I think it has just sort of the most moving parts on it.
Absolutely,
too.
Absolutely.
Like most of the rest of the album the songs have a bit more structure to them. With that song, we were just we were having fun, and we were like, well, what if we tried putting this part in? And then it would then become like, okay, well, this is cool, but now we have to go change this other part or swap these parts because this makes no sense going into this now, but we still want to keep both. So yeah, there was a little bit of up and down and back and forth with that.
Makes sense.
Sorry. It's okay. I think the only other one that I can think of personally that I remember, maybe, I don't know if it took the longest, but went through more iterations. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Lightbulb Mouth Treasure.
Yeah,
that was the other one that we actually got a chance to jam a bit live while we were writing it.
Yeah.
When pandemic restrictions started easing up, we had a couple of chances to actually sit in a room and play live and practice some of these and play through them. And that was one that started in that space. And so I just remember there being like, we had the breakdown part which I think we actually originally started the song with, if I remember
No, it was
correctly.
like halfway through the bridge versus like
That's right,
starting the bridge. Yeah. So that one definitely takes. So long answered. Probably Golden Graves.
and
Yeah.
Lightbulb Mouth Treasure both. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And favorites.
Oh,
Mhm.
favorites.
Everyone's
I'm gonna
favorite.
go last. You guys can
I'll go
go.
first. I have two for two different reasons. Terrible Fate is my favorite drum wise to play. It's super different than anything I and we as a band have ever really done, and I think it turned out better than any of us could have hoped for. Favorite to listen to as Losing Your Exterior, and I think that was a band favorite as soon as it was written. We knew that this was going to be one of the top listens for sure.
Oh yeah.
I just have to copy paste Evan's answers. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think Terrible Fate has the best chorus on the whole record. I think it's one of the best choruses Jake has ever written, period, for the band. And yeah, Losing Your Exterior is just tons of fun to play. I love the way the song progresses. I really like the chorus on it too. And I think at risk of I just have to kind of keep it there because I love all the songs on this record for a lot of different reasons, but I think those are kind of the highlight stickouts for me as well.
All right.
Yeah, it's tough in this album. Usually I have like a clear favorite. I have like favorite parts in every song. Like I could pick 10 parts. I wouldn't be a good song, but I could put them all together and that would be my favorite. But we always want to every album we kind of want to hit more extremes. Like we want to get heavier and we want to get softer.
Mm.
So, which is funny because it seems like all our favorite song on this album is Losing Your Exterior, which is not the heavy one because that's also my favorite. It's just so catchy. It's so 2004 compared to the rest of the stuff on the album. And I can't get enough of it.
At risk of stealing some of Jake's thunder, I think one of the reasons too is and we kind of talk about this every record, but every record we've kind of had that one song that we all collectively feel like in one song encapsulates the whole of our sound across a whole record. And I think that's what Losing Your Exterior hits. And we always just want to write music that we would love to listen to. I think that's why it ends up being a favorite, because it's just like, man, this is like, we feel confident in knowing it's like, this feels like us front to back. It kind of hits all of the notes of what we do.
Oh,
Totally. Yeah. I'm gonna try to be a little different because if at surface level, I'd say those two songs are like I remember writing Terrible Fate, and Devin and I we felt like because some songs click together so quick where we're just like, damn, that's the verse, there's the chorus, boom. And Terrible Fate, literally, I remember Devin and I took a couple hours kind of piecing it together, and by the end of it, we listened to it and we're like, holy shit. And usually I procrastinate and take a long time for vocals. I had vocals written for that song the next day. Devin came back over to my place and I literally was recording the last line as he walked in. And I was like, what do you think? And we were like, holy crap. And some of those vocals that were on the demo made the record version. We were just like, I think that's a better take than, because there's some magic in the roughness of it, right? But I'd say to be a little different, one that I really think we pushed ourselves in those extremes like Rob was talking about with Sparkle Motion, because there's literally the heaviest this band has ever been on that song. We're big fans of just frenetic, mathy, weird shit, like Callous Boys and stuff like that. Yeah, so the whole second verse is just math in your head and frenetic, but then it's a pop punk chorus. And at the end, it has a Backstreet Boys moment, and the bridge has a My Chemical Romance type part. So I really love that song. And then one that means a lot to me personally is the last song. It's called Cassiar on the record. I'd say to the last question, that probably took the longest time because I had the concept for that song for 2.5 years before it came to fruition. Yeah.
Damn.
That one is about my grandfather passing away, and it actually has voice clips of my dad saying his goodbyes to my grandpa 3 hours before he passed. So personally means a lot to me and my whole family. And it's a really rough listen to it. I remember when I sent Rob the demo and he texted me a week later and he says, I hate you right now. I said, why?
Aw.
He's like, because I'm crying on my kitchen floor. So it's a tough listen, but I think like we've always like left a spot to have like a softer song on the record, and I've always like tried to push the songwriting on those songs, and I know I'm really proud of that song for sure, personally.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to it 4 times and I've cried 4 times. I refuse to listen to it.
Oh,
He had to pull
I
his
still
car
can't get
over.
through it. I still can't
Yeah.
get through it without crying either.
Yeah, it's
I
rough.
tried to listen to it driving one day and I literally had to pull over and like stop.
Damn.
oh.
Well, that's
Yeah,
a
it's
perfect segue into my next question. Where was your headspace at while you guys are writing the album?
I like sum up, I guess, for all of us. I feel like the pandemic was pretty tough for us. You know, like mental health manifestations of like stress, anxieties, depression. We dealt with like loss, and I mean, we're really tight knit, and I think that's part of like, I guess, our longevity as a band is we're all friends first and a band second. So like not being able to really spend a lot of quality time while we were writing this record was kind of tough because it felt like sure we were like writing the best stuff I think we've ever written, but like also didn't feel like we were a band because we didn't get that FaceTime like, you know, twice a week of writing these songs and watching each other's reactions to each part while we were playing them live. But um so I think like I don't know, personally from a lyrical standpoint and like music standpoint on my end, it was really a depressing time. And I think that kind of uh shows on the record. But I think there's a little bit of hope on the record too, because a lot of great things happened in the last couple of years as well. And I think that those things reflect on the record. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'll second everything that you said. I know, like you said, just not having the initial reactions from each other when we finally nail that one part or that one transition. I know, like going completely digital was super difficult at first. So I'd sit down and try to put something together, and there'd just be nothing there, and I would just kind of throw in the towel, and that would be it. And then I remember finally hitting a stride, and I think it ended up being Deathbed Daydream. And that was the moment where it was like, okay, we can do this. And yeah.
Yeah, it felt. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
I think like at first it's tough, like we said, with the writing transition, but then because you can't really get outside and do as much, I think a lot of good albums came out because of COVID, because you have that time to sit down and like nitpick. Because like you're at home, you're not going out, you're not doing this, so you can really like get into the nitty gritty and really spend the time. But it was still like a lot of not good times funneled into it, which might be why the artwork is so dark and some of the themes are dark, even though we're fun guys and we have a good time. Like we definitely dug deep for this one, I think, because you kind of had to. There's not much else going on for a while there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of, and it's weird because I don't think any of us are really pessimistic people by nature, but especially me. But it was like that first couple of years of the pandemic, especially the first year, was just so jarring and such a change. And like even just the whole process of the whole record it wasn't, I don't want to say a headache. It was just, things changed constantly. And like the fact that it wasn't even the fact that it wasn't supposed to be a record, which is kind of like the kind of the cool, hopeful point of it. But like the pandemic hit and we'd started writing, and like Jake said, we had like 4 or 5 demos, and we were like, we don't know how long this is going to go on. We don't know if we're going to play shows again. We don't know when that's going to happen, if that's going to happen. And like I think that was one of the hardest things for us to all come to terms with, was the fact that we're not a touring band, but we love playing live. We play shows regionally within Western Canada, and it's always a blast. We just have fun, and having that taken away sucked. And so it was like, okay, well, I remember the conversation too, is do we even want to write another record? Like we want to keep writing, but what do we do with it? And so we're like, well, we have these demos, let's get them put together. Let's get an EP out and go from there, kind of thing. And so it was all kind of piecemeal because it was like we did these things digitally and we cobbled the demos together digitally. And even talking with our producer was like, well, we can't come record. So we'll like send you DIs and we'll just do the digital thing, I guess. We'll program drums, whatever. So that was kind of our original plan. And like I was fortunate enough that I had actually gone down because again, mid-pandemic things loosened up a little bit. We were at the point where we were kind of like finally starting to be able to like, let's just get this stuff together. Let's just get it out. And so like Rob said, we had the time to like, we weren't doing anything else. I knew the songs inside out and backwards on bass at that point. So it was like, I have the time. I'm taking a weekend. I'm going to go down and I'm going to track bass with our producer.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do something and I didn't want to just be sitting in my house anymore. So it was like, cool. Yeah, we've got, live bass recorded. But then it was like, well, now what? Now we have to try and coordinate the rest of it. How do we even do that?
And we wrote 8 more songs. Yeah.
And then, and then in the process of all that, the rest came about with Open Your Ears, talking to Open Your Ears and them offering us the deal. But then them saying, we want you to do a full record. We're like, okay,
You're like,
we'll go
fuck.
write 8 more songs. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
How we started like really formulating that in like November 2021, and then we went and recorded in April of 2022. So we've been sitting on this album for a year or two, which is also really weird because like we have to kind of get in our heads and be like, this is new to everyone else, even if we've heard this like these songs for years now. But yeah, I guess to sum up the whole answer for the question is just it was a dark kind of bleak time for the band for sure.
Absolutely.
So are you able to talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this record? I know you just said that was difficult, but just, writing process, that type of thing. Positive or negative?
Well, we have a recording issue on the album, just a little. We all go down. It's an 8-hour drive from where we were. Jake and Ross get down in the studio. They're there for a day or two. I show up on, I think, Sunday. I don't know, get off the plane. We all hang out in the studio. Ross wakes up the next day. Granted, we've all been like together. I mean, guys in bands are pretty close to each other. And Ross has COVID the next day.
Oh,
And
shit.
we're supposed to be down there for a week recording, not in town, of course. So that really, not a good time. Not a good
This
time.
album was one of the funnest, but also most difficult to record because
Literally everything that could have gone wrong in some way did.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just like, so now we have to, like, between Jake, myself, and our producer Jordan, thankfully, who's like world class.
he used to
player,
play
which is
bass in a band
very
called Secret
handy.
and Whisper, so like he's a terrific bassist.
You just add one more thing. We're supposed to be down there having fun, and like Ross is literally stuffed in a room playing Switch for 5 or 6 days, and
I was stuck quarantined in our Airbnb for the whole week.
We were all like testing daily to be like, well, if we all have COVID, then we can make it work.
Yeah.
But Ross was the only one testing positive for COVID.
I was at that point I was the only one that hadn't had it before. So
yeah,
I got knocked out hard. But just the whole, Rob's right, the whole process of, once we got to the point of like, cool, the record's done, now it's time to record. It was tough because I think all of us kind of feel like a little bit bittersweet about it for different reasons. Me because of that, but like we couldn't really enjoy it together, even just timing wise. Devin had to go down
a week before.
Before and track drums. So he was in the studio alone with our producer and our engineer. And then he came home, and then Jake and I went down, and then Rob joined us a day later, and then I got taken out, and so it was just like I remember like, and I had to drive home on my own like a day early too, and then Rob's wife had to come down and with her vehicle to pick up.
She was
Jake
pregnant at the time.
Like 7 months pregnant.
8 months pregnant.
It was
wild. Just like the whole thing. Like I just remember getting home the day after I got home, knowing the guys were still finishing up in the studio. I was finally well enough to travel, but I was still sick, and just like even just like the whole month after, like I remember even when Jordan started sending us mixes, I was honestly, I don't even know if I even really expressed to the rest of you guys how bitter I was. But like I just wanted to like I just wanted nothing to do with anything about the record for a while until I'd
was a
had my
dark cloud.
faith. It sucked because it was like, you know, we had and it was our first. So I think the other part of that for me was because this was actually our first time since our first record, Modern Disease, which I wasn't in the band for at the time, but as this lineup, it was the first time that we actually were able to do a full record together, like in a studio. Our EP after Modern Disease, Presence of Past Tense, was like, it was kind of like a digital thing. Like we've always been a DIY band.
Mm-hmm.
So like we tracked everything ourselves and then sent stuff off to be produced by our producer. And it was like that for Presence of Past Tense and Sinking Feeling. This was the first time where it was like, oh, we actually get to have the studio experience together.
We're
doing the thing. And it all just got blown to hell. And so it's just like, you know, that part of it is it's there in every it's weird that even like after Jake had already written everything lyrically, it just had to come back one more time as just as like that final stamp on the record of like, this record came from everything that sucked.
Yeah.
It really did. And we were photo finish, like literally. So on Rob and my side, Ross is miserable, dying in the Airbnb that we booked, and like quarantined in his room. And then Rob and I went from being like, this will be a nice, fun, easy week. We'll have breathing room, to holy shit, we had 14-hour days in the studio, like just insane, exhausted. And the last day we saved vocals mostly for the last day. I did little parts here and there, but I did like 6 hours straight of screaming to the part where I thought I was gonna throw up. The end, like just brutal headache. And like we finished the record I think like 10:30 at night on our last day. Like, yeah, it was wild. So like we felt like I mentioned, we're all like great, like friends first, so we're all honestly super bummed about Ross not being able to be there. I'm like, I'd be pissed too if I booked time off work, was, you know, doing the thing, and like we're all such close friends, and like the day we did have all together in the studio was awesome. But then like, yeah, to know that he's just sitting there being miserable 8 hours away from home, like it wasn't a fun experience for us in that regard, because like we really did feel for Ross. But then like Rob and I had to like it was fun, don't get me wrong, but like we had to work harder than we could have ever anticipated, like to make sure it actually got done in time.
Absolutely. Well, that is probably the craziest album story we've gotten, because obviously talked to a lot of bands, everybody's recorded their album like during the pandemic or right after, and definitely the craziest story we've gotten. Hoping that the next one is not as crazy as this one.
Well, I now have a son. Jake's about to have a daughter, so our next recording is still going to be like, well, how do we balance going to Kelowna for a week and bringing our wives and kids, I guess? Like, I'm not leaving my family for a week, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it'll be
we've talked jokingly, well, not even jokingly, like all of our families get along at this point. We all have a pretty tight knit like friend group together, so we're like, let's just like book a vacation home and the wives and kids can like hang out together, and
we'll go into the studio for a week.
So it shouldn't be crazy.
Hell yeah. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you got a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Sweet chili heat Doritos, easy.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Ooh.
I love Takis, man.
Me too.
Yeah, Takis. I'd say Takis.
Beef jerky.
Well,
Ew.
Hey,
it's
Don't worry, I got you,
expensive, and you're still hungry at the end of it, man.
So good.
you gotta get the 10-ounce one, the one that costs like $20.
Yeah.
That one will be good.
Yeah.
The pep and shed, the big tall ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I
Pepperoni
rescind
and
my
cheddar.
last ew and I pass it on to you.
Oh, pep and shed is pretty solid. I'm backing you up, Rob.
Oh my god. So for these last couple of questions, we're actually gonna shift away from music, if that's okay with you guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're actually gonna go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
It's a tough one. I would say like some Chipotle, like a nice burrito bowl.
We
chicken.
don't have a Chipotle here, so that's
Yeah, so like to you guys, it's like you guys got
exquisite.
like
Yeah, there's one right down
Tons
the
of
road.
Chipotle. Yeah, like
I'm actually anti-Chipotle.
really. Well, Vancouver's our closest Chipotle, and it's like 8.5 hours away. So like,
Oof.
it's
I just
like
had
a
my
treat
first
to
Chipotle
us.
experience last week because I was in LA.
Yeah.
Oh, how was it?
It was good, but
Yeah,
like it's funny, like you, I've realized that because like I work for a company that's our North American team is based out of LA, so I realized that my coworkers are all, not all, but a couple of them are also Chipotle snobs. I remember a couple of them took me to Chipotle for like my first like lunch meal there, and then when one of my coworkers found out, he's like, "Really? Of all the things in LA, you took him to Chipotle
to
first?"
Chipotle. That's
Yeah, where
fucking
there's
ridiculous.
actual Mexican food, like
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
best street
Oh,
food
man.
in the world.
There's something about
Yeah.
Chipotle though that just hits right, and
Yep.
like
I respect that.
and drink like I don't know, but like those Monster Zero sugar monsters, they hit different. You know, they got that tartness to them. I'll go with that.
All right.
Perfect.
Mine
I'm
would
gonna be.
Oh,
Go ahead,
Ross.
Dip. Okay, I'm gonna be a real piece of shit and just say that it would be a like deep dish stuffed crust pepperoni pizza,
Okay.
Hell yeah.
like Caesar dressing as a dip, and because I don't drink really, like I don't drink pop or soda or anything like that. I like don't do a lot of sugar stuff, but I would just say fuck it, like give me the biggest Coke you can.
Exactly. The leader.
Yeah.
Mine would be a large pepperoni pineapple jalapeno pizza, and then
Beautiful.
I knew it was
Devin
gonna
and
come
Rock
from somebody. And then same as Ross, I don't drink a lot of pop, so I would probably get like a giant Dr. Pepper or something to go along with it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go full dad. Big Wagyu steak, rare, probably still cold on the inside, and a big, tall, unfiltered IPA with the floaties in it.
All right.
That's
Let's
the most
go.
ridiculous
All
Oh,
right.
answer
Scared
I've
me
ever
with cold
heard.
meat, but you know,
I'm
I'm gonna
with
let you
Rob.
live.
I'm with Rob
Yeah.
now. Yeah, I changed.
Cold meat. All right.
Fucked
Yeah.
up.
Well,
Rare.
Have
maybe
that.
it'll be like maybe it's warm in the middle. Like,
Are you
We'll
talking
make it
blue? Are you
rare.
talking like blue rare?
Not
You wanna
quite,
just-
not quite.
Not
Like,
quite.
I like how
I still
particular
want it to
Rob's
be warm.
So like
just
a
like
rare
just
meat.
barely
Yeah.
warm.
Rob will be
Yeah.
the one that'll be like, "Can I get the day pass to just go barbecue it myself before I die?"
Well,
Yeah.
Warm
I
it up
was
in the
going to suggest
microwave.
my own steak, but
Yeah.
That
I'll have
helps.
somebody cook it this time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Hmm.
3, 2,
We're all a
1,
bunch of
Harry
nerds,
Potter?
so. I don't know. Pokemon would be dope. I feel like that's just an easy cop out, but like Johto region, give me that. Don't give me 800 whatever Pokemon. Like, let's just go on an adventure and catch Lugia or something.
Nice.
I'd say the world of Bungie's Destiny video games.
Nice.
I've been a huge Destiny nerd for a long time, and it's one of my favorite games to just like not just play wise, but like exploration wise. They nail their world builds, and they're just everything about it every single time, and it's always beautiful. And so to be able to like actually experience that for a week in real life would be pretty sick.
Hell yeah.
I think I'd have to watch the double sunset on Tatooine. I was going to say Harry Potter, but it's too cold there. I already live somewhere cold. I don't need that. Need
Fair
somewhere
enough.
hot.
Fair enough.
So you'd want to go to Tatooine? I'm sorry.
Well,
I
it's kind
usually
of like a
don't
dump.
judge.
It's kind of
I
like a
do.
dump.
That's
but
fucked.
We should
It's
preface
hot.
that we had a heat wave where it was over 40 degrees last summer. and
Celsius,
Rob was
Celsius.
outside.
It's like
mowing the
105
lawn.
Fahrenheit or something. Maybe
I think
110.
I think we all missed the prime opportunity for the meme there
Yeah.
Which one?
about the sand.
Oh yeah. Sand everywhere, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I barbecued in the sun in like 42 degree weather. And
It's
I just-
clear that Rob is the
literally
dad
baking.
already in the
Yeah.
band, so
Yeah.
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 Rob was a dad a decade before he had a kid.
That was our joke, is he was the band dad. So
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be on time. We have to set up everything first before we're allowed to have fun.
Yeah.
Bad things.
let's hear it, Devin.
Devin, where you live?
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Being able to bend an element would just be sick.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question. What is your favorite color?
Mint green. My whole upstairs of my house is mint green, so I love mint
Awesome.
green.
All right.
Purple.
Nice.
Damn it, Devin. Same.
You guys can have the same favorite
Yeah, you
color.
can have the same color. That's fine.
Yeah, purple. Same.
All right.
Yellow.
Hell
Nice.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god,
Best
look at
color.
that
Yeah.
ad.
Best color. hmm
So
It's not going to show my keyboard. Oh, yeah, it is going to show
Oh,
my
there we
keyboard.
there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's like a nice
Yeah,
little
your whole build
lilac.
is purple.
Nice.
Um,
Fuck yeah.
So as Gloria said, that is all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you guys would like to plug?
Listen
New
to our
record,
band.
Terminal.
I don't
I don't know
by
when
the
this comes
time-
out.
By the time
Record
you're
will be
listening
out.
to this, by the time you're listening to this, the record's out. So please go listen to Terminal. We have vinyl available through our record labels store. We have merch and vinyl available through our Bandcamp.
DM us
Yeah,
on
we hope you
Instagram
love it
if
as-
you cried listening to the last song. Let us know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make that a story thing that we'll.
It's going to be the
repost
new.
your
It'll be the new.
reaction.
It'll be the new TikTok challenge. Listen to Cassiar without crying.
Yep.
Oh.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for sound. This guy's been the Burden, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.